One of my good friends who's involved in ministry like me is Brother Andrew. Brother Andrew is called God's Smuggler. He's famous around the world. And he wrote a very important book that affected me. And it was called And God Changed His Mind. That title got me right away. And God changed his mind. And he tells the story of listening to two women discussing hostages being held for ransom in the Middle East. And one lady said, well, I feel sorry for the terrorists. This is God's problem, not ours. He's already decided how these stories are going to turn out. And the other lady said, smiled, patted her arm, and she said, but we know that God has his reasons for allowing these things, because we can be sure that nothing happens outside of the will of God. Now, I don't know if that affects you. It affected me. I said, that's heresy. I felt indignation rising within me, said Brother Andrew. I couldn't believe these ladies were saying things that were so foreign. He said, you're not helpless. He said, I wanted to say it to them. You're not helpless. God has given you the power to change the situation. Now, why don't you do it? Why don't you use it? Why don't you just pray? I thought about that, and wow. Christians don't pray often because they believe God's sovereignty is their excuse. Nothing will happen outside of what God wants. But friends, Abraham proved that wrong. When Abraham was concerned about Lot and his family living in Sodom, and God came and talked to Abraham, and Abraham began to pray, and he said, God, if there were 50 righteous in Sodom, would you change your judgment? And the Lord said, all right, for 50, I'll do it. And then he went on and said, well, how about 40? And God said, okay, how about 30, 20? They went down to 10. And you know what's amazing is that God didn't stop moving the number. Abraham did. And only because Abraham stopped praying, God destroyed Sodom, because there wasn't 10 righteous in the city. Now, that is biblical, and it shows very clearly that praying is a result of hope. You have got to hope in prayer, hope that God will answer your prayer before you pray. And therefore, when you pray, you expect God to make the difference. Pray today. In the middle of everything we're watching in America and the sad things that are happening, we need to pray, and we need to ask God to change it. And the only way to do that is to have hope that he will listen.